Good afternoon, YouTube. My name is Cameron. Um, I am one of many people who have been diagnosed with something that's very, very life altering, very, very life changing, something very, very rare that's called GBS, or the proper name for it being called Guillain-Barre syndrome. I was diagnosed with this a little over 2 years ago. I wasn't expecting anything like this to happen to me because of my prior medical history. Beforehand, I've had one, two, three, four, five chest operations and one on my back, but those for different reasons. Guillain-Barre has affected me in a way that it changed the course of my being for basically the rest of my life. I was driving to the store when this happened. A day prior to me feeling the full symptoms, my back was hurting. Keep in mind, I have scoliosis. It runs in my family. When I came back from the hospital initially for my back pain, because that's initially what I thought it was, I got sent home. They gave me medication, and I thought that would be the end of it. But the pain never faded away. This whole entire time, I had felt this feeling of pins and needles inside of my foot and in my legs. I didn't know what it was, but little unbeknownst to me back then, that was one of the early warning signs that this is happening. Keep in mind, Guillain-Barre takes over in what I would like to call 4 to 5 different stages, and the pins and needles is just the first. The day that it happened, I drove to the store and I came back. Now, keep this in mind. I was lucky enough to go and make it home because I was driving. And it just so happens that I collapsed in this very area where I'm walking towards now. I took just a few steps leading from my car. At the time being, my car was placed here. And I'm walking. Keep in mind, I have the pins and needles feeling in my foot. So I'm walking. And then next thing I know, I step to about here, where I'm at currently. There's my front door. I collapsed right here in this very spot. It got so bad to a point to where I had to legitimately call my parents for help, which it kind of messed them up mentally when they found out, or when they noticed that they had to carry me inside of my own home because I could not walk under my own willpower. That very same day, I was taken to the hospital. I was taken to Long Beach Memorial. Where they ran several tests on me, CAT scan, everything that you can think of, the kind of tests that they ran it. A day later, I discovered that I had this going on, and they told me about it. Of course, when I initially found out that I had this going on, I knew nothing about it. I was scared, I was nervous, I didn't know what to think about anything. So, uh, it has affected me in ways that I couldn't walk anymore. Essentially, it left me paralyzed and laying in a bed, and it started to shut my body down slowly. Once Guillain-Barré hits that second stage of feeling that you cannot no longer move under your own willpower, that's the second stage. It comes to a point to where I had to be watched constantly to try and make sure that this never went forward any more than what it did. I had to be placed under breathing treatments, again, tests of every kind that you can think of and name. There's a couple of different treatments for Guillain-Barré. Now, in most cases, they say that something like this cannot be fully treatable. It depends on how soon you catch it in its stages. In my particular case, I caught it within the third stage. The third stage being the treating stage. Now, there's two ways, or multitude of ways, that you can get this treated. Not cured, but treated. Doctors in the whole medical world have not yet to find a particular cure for my condition. So, one of the ways that you can have this, again, treated is through a blood transfusion, a complete blood transfusion, or you can go about the steroid treatment, which is what they gave me. They placed me on a medication called IVIG over the course of 5 nights. Now, while I was given this, due to the effects that IVIG can have, I was placed in ICU because it can affect your breathing. Now, after the 5 days that I was in the hospital, in ICU, they moved me to the rehab stages, which was very painful every day. Very painful. And I can't stress the word painful enough, because how Guillain-Barré affects you, it not only affects your legs and everything else on your body, but your nerves, they're basically damaged, is what it is. That's what Guillain-Barré does. It attacks the nerves and makes the body begin to attack itself. Day by day, while I laid there and tried to move barely in a hospital bed, using a walker, having to be retaught how to walk again. Now, I said again because with the scoliosis surgery that I had to be retaught how to walk because of, obviously, the spinal surgery that I had. But just taking the steps gradually, day by day, having to rest day by day, not being able to keep up because I'm laying in a bed, it leaves you in a feeling of suspense, knowing that, okay, what's gonna happen? You know, how can I go about recovering from here? The main important thing, if you're going through something like this, or if you know anybody who's going through this, is to stay positive. Don't ever give up on something like this, because if you do, you've already lost. If you ever go and consider giving up something like this, keep in mind, this is, again, like I said, a very rare condition that maybe 1 out of 200 people get. In most cases, a lot of people recover, most don't. In my case, well, let me finish as the story goes on. Once I finished my rehab at the hospital, they sent me home. Keep in mind, I was in the hospital for a total of 15 days. I went in May 9th, came out on the 24th. A lot of that was me walking every day, barely moving, and going to physical therapy at least every other day. And trying to regain my strength back. A lot of that was due to me being able to move again. Was my parents, my friends, my support line, my dear friends who I love very much, who I look at as not just friends, they're my family. And me seeing my doctors, who were perhaps my biggest cheerleaders when I was going through this to date. During that recovery process, I hurt every day during this. So, being in constant pain, being uncomfortable, walking, moving around every day was a struggle. But ultimately, 6 months down the line, I made a full recovery. I was able to walk, run, move, and even jump. To the point to where, yes, it would still hurt, and whatever I did, but I made that recovery. Now, I will say this, the takeaways that I did receive from this is that I am now hurting or will be in pain or suffer from chronic pain because of this for the rest of my life. But because of everything that I had been through prior with the chest operations and my back surgery prior, my pain threshold is very high. So I'm able to take this pain and deal with it and keep going. Now, for those of you that are out there who are watching this and listening to my story, as I go on deeper and deeper later on into the next chapter of these videos that I will be making over a span of for whoever needs the help who is going through this, or for someone who wants to listen to this story and find it as inspirational for someone or for something that most people cannot do. Always just remember, when you or a family member is going through this, cheer them on, be their biggest support lines, and keep your head held high. Always keep little positive vibes going. As far as myself is concerned, because of everything now, everything is on a need-to-know basis now, because of everything. Every day is something different with Guillian Barre. I can hurt one day and go through something, or I can be fine the next day. It just depends on the day. But I'll explain more along the lines as how it affected me in detail over the next few days with these videos. But until then, this is just the beginning of one of many of the videos that I'll be putting out. Again, I'm Cameron. See you soon for chapter 2.